So there are a couple of different tests. Let's look at the time perspective, okay? It's not so much how long that person is with you, but it's how much control you have over their time. So a typical employee, think about it like just in a traditional sense. An employee works 9 to 5. If you're requiring your independent contractor to be at a certain place at a certain time, they may not be an independent contractor. On the other side, if you give a project to someone to complete on their own time with a deadline, but they can work whenever, they can either spread it out over the course of a month, or they can do it the night before, whatever the case may be, if you give them freedom of time to do what they want, then that could be more towards an independent contractor. It doesn't matter how long that agreement is for. You can have an independent contractor on for what we call evergreen, as long as you want, right? So case in point would be one of us. We would be an independent contractor. You would engage with us and we would stay on board until you say, you know what, I'm done, thank you. But we're there forever. And our work, and actually Alec would be included in this as well, our work is done on our own time, whether it be billed hourly, whether it be billed monthly. We are independent contractors in that sense, in our relationship.
Yep, as an add-on to that, so strategically, obviously you don't want to play with the rules of classification, but you can play with the rules of what you want. So in this case, instead of going in saying you want something and therefore you're classified as an employee or independent contractor, sometimes it's good to be like, I'm building a logo, should I get an employee or an independent contractor? Just trust a really good designer to do it on their own time. Being able to delegate is something you have to learn anyways, so it's a good way to early on to learn to delegate to independent contractors, and you'll also be able to delegate to employees. Yeah.
I'm going to add on the boring piece. First of all, one thing before if you were to engage an independent contractor, you want them to fill out the Form W-9, which is basically their name, address, tax identification number. They're going to sign and date that form. Also, another thing to ask is whether or not they perform similar services for other businesses. That will help you establish the fact that they are really a subcontractor. They just don't work for you, but they work for other businesses, providing the same level of services, similar to what the three of us here do. As far as that 20-question IRS employee versus independent contractor, based on that, everyone is an employee. You probably get down to question number 9, and even Matt would be considered an employee of yours. So that sort of gets thrown out the door. The key piece is the W-9, and a lot of independent contractors like ourselves, excuse me, we have limited liability insurance, so we can provide you with our jacket that proves that we are in fact a separately operating entity, and that can be sent in along with the W-9 form. And for those of you who have employees or potentially looking for employees, your insurance company at the end of the year is going to ask you that great question, did you have any 1099 subcontractors? And you're going to answer yes. The next question they're going to ask you for is their workers' comp policy. And you're probably not going to have that, which then means you're going to pay the workers' comp insurance for your independent contractor that you hired. Now, the interesting thing is independent contractors, sole member independent contractors, are waived from workers' compensation in Massachusetts. They get a free waiver. So you want to make sure if they are an independent contractor, like the designer probably has limited liability coverage, that so-called one-page insurance jacket you might be familiar with. At the bottom of that is their workers' comp policy number with a waiver. So you can thus save some money if potentially you run across that in the future. The W-9 before you issue a payment. A lot of independent contractors out there won't give you that after the fact, unfortunately. They play that game of hopefully you won't be in tax compliant mode. My recommendation is if you engage them, send them the W-9 form, and then after they submit that, you can issue the payment. And Paychex does a great job, by the way. They just don't do payroll. They manage independent contractors also. And the nice thing about that is they're the bad guys. They're the ones that say, hey, I need your insurance. Hey, I need your social security number or your tax ID number. So it's not you doing it, it's them. And it makes life a lot easier.